Pleased to be joined by Justin Blake from Edelman, Managing Director. He's come into the hub culture. You're a regular appearance here in Davos. Tell me what you think this year of Davos. This is your 9th year?
It's my 9th Davos, and in some ways the story of this Davos is there's no single story of Davos. Usually on the first or second day there are one or two themes that everyone seems to be talking about, then the media picks up on it and the echo chamber starts. The media reports on them, they become the theme of Davos. This year, there haven't been those one or two things that have really popped. Instead, there are about 20 or 30 things going on that are engaging people, but there's not that one or two. I think one of the results of that is people are feeling like they're getting a lot done here. A lot of the anxiety of the last 2 years is gone. Some of the more extreme observers have said there's a little bit of amnesia amongst the Davos audience in terms of what's happened with the business climate. Regardless of whether it's amnesia or not, people are feeling a lot more comfortable. The stress is gone, the anxiety is gone. What they're doing is much more deal making. So today on the last day, I did a lot of walking around talking to folks. What they were saying is I got more done at this Davos than any other year. So it's a real focus back to business and whatever people are trying to accomplish here at Davos.
You mentioned the media as being part of the echo chamber, but there's also been this other theme of Egypt going on. And how do you think that's played into it as well?
Yeah, it's been a really interesting year in terms of outside events. So on the way to Davos, there was the awful news from Russia, and then we arrive in Davos, and there's a story as it's happening in Egypt, which is still unfolding. And this is the first year since I've been here when there are outside events that are overshadowing anything that's happening here. In some ways, it doesn't have a direct impact on what's happening. The panels are still the same, a lot of the conversations are still the same, but at the same time, the relevance may be a little bit different. You look at the homepage, a lot of the news organizations, you look at a lot of the coverage, it's of course dominated by Egypt, and then you even look at what's happening with some of the news organizations on the ground here. So on the broadcast side, they're still doing the same number of CEO interviews that they may have done in past years, but now they're doing them and putting them in the can because they're focusing their coverage on, as it should be, on Egypt. In fact, I ran into a producer friend yesterday, and she told me, I can't talk, I've got to run. I'm like, well, what's going on? She's like, I'm packing my bag and going to Cairo.
Right.
Certainly nothing I've seen before.
Right. So there's another kind of angle to this, which is the social media angle has really picked up in the last couple of years at Davos. And if you just look at the Twitter stream for the hashtag WEF or Davos, it's going kind of second by second, which is certainly faster, every year. And how do you think that has played into how people have experienced it this time?
I remember years ago when the first blogger appeared in Davos, Ariana Huffington, and it was this oddity. We have a blogger amongst our midst.
Right.
Now you have folks who have these hybrid jobs where they're blogging and being an executive. They're a journalist that's also blogging. We're finding a lot of people with kind of new roles where they're still working with major news organizations while at the same time doing their own citizen journalism. So it's a real blend of the roles in terms of the people who are here at Davos, and that's a real shift.
It's interesting. Do you think that they've been able to, because there is a bit of worry about too much that goes on because it's supposed to be off the record, and everybody's sitting there, and then they all go off, and they might write something, but they might not. Do you think that there's a good balance being reached?
I think actually a bridge has been crossed, where several years ago it still felt private, and then all of a sudden there'd be someone who pops that bubble of privacy, and that created a big stir when the first few times someone might have blogged from a conference. This is even before Twitter, where they heard something in one of the panels and blogged about it, and they said, oh, was that against our rules? Was that with our rules? Now I think there's an expectation that everything is on the record. And at this point, anyone who doesn't think what they're saying is on the record is probably making a mistake.
Right. So the other theme over the last couple of years, again, is the fact that the BRICS are not only here, they're on the agenda, they're on the panels, and we have seen, the proper shift that's happened in the rest of the world economy is also reflected here. So how have you experienced that?
Yeah, well, with a lot of the multinational clients that we work with at Edelman, they're coming to Davos to meet people from the BRICS. And that's a real shift, where in a lot of their agendas, they're spending half or more than half of their time meeting people from the BRIC countries and also doing a lot more media from the BRICS. I was sitting with the folks from CCTV, And that was probably one of the busiest spots in Davos
Right.
this whole week, where people were really wanting to talk to the Chinese audience through CCTV.
Mm-hmm. Justin, thanks so much for coming into the Hub Pavilion here in Davos to chat about your experiences, 9th year, and we'll see you next year for your 10th.
Thank you.
I'm Edie Lush.